Welcome to the abyss of crime, where shadows whisper secrets, and the truth is often stranger than fiction. From chilling unsolved crimes to controversial trials, we explore the darker side of humanity through meticulous investigation and compelling storytelling. In today's chilling exploration, we delve into a disturbing case where jealousy drove someone to commit unspeakable acts. This tragic story unfolded in Costa Rica a few years ago and has gone down in forensic history as the case of Gerardo Cruz. Let's take a closer look at the events that led to this tragic outcome. Samodi Fonsec was born in Costa Rica in February 1975. Not much is known about her family or early years, but her childhood was spent in an area called Cuba, where she lived with her mother, Sonia Fonsec. Samodi attended a local school and even then exhibited a difficult and conflicted personality. She did not tolerate rejection and often used force or deceit to get what she wanted. Local residents remember her as someone who, thanks to her striking looks and perfect figure, could easily charm men, but struggled to maintain lasting relationships. Samodi's beauty was undeniable, and she used it to her advantage, prioritizing material wealth and self-interest above all else. This behavior quickly made men lose interest in her. Known for her incredible jealousy and aggression, Samodi worked for several years, portraying a Barbie doll in a large bookstore owned by the Universal Company. This role earned her the flattering nickname, Barbie, a name that stuck with her for life. After finishing high school, Samodi began a relationship with Osvaldo Fernando Baleri, a successful journalist who worked on local television and was 16 years her senior. This was Samodi's longest and most serious relationship. But despite their long time together, Osvaldo never proposed to her. The couple had 2 children, a son named Christopher in 1996, and a daughter named Christina a year later. However, their relationship was marred by constant jealousy and arguments, leading Osvaldo to eventually leave Samodi. In 2012, Osvaldo, then 53, passed away suddenly. To Samodi's dismay, she discovered that he had not included her in his will. Refusing to accept this, she took matters into her own hands by seizing his house, changing the locks so that his relatives and heirs could not enter. Samodi also took some valuable items that belonged to Osvaldo. Outraged, the Baleri family took legal action against her. Although the police forced her to leave the house, no criminal charges were filed against her. Samodi had several other relationships, including one with Miguel Angel Perez, from whom she had a 3rd child, a daughter named Maria. While some reports indicate that this relationship ended in divorce, others suggest that Samodi was never officially married to Perez. Nevertheless, she gave her youngest daughter his surname, without his knowledge or consent. Interestingly, several of Samodi's lovers either disappeared or died under mysterious circumstances, yet no one seemed to connect these incidents to her for a long time. For instance, one of her lovers vanished shortly after deciding to break up with her. His whereabouts remain unknown, and many believe Samodi had a hand in his disappearance, although no concrete evidence was found. Another former lover, named Diaco, was murdered in what appeared to be a botched robbery after breaking up with her. Again, suspicions surrounded Samodi, but no solid proof was established. However, Samodi's most notorious victim was Gerardo Cruz. Born in December 1992 in San Jose, Costa Rica, Gerardo was raised by his mother, Ana Patricia, and his stepfather, Hermes Rodriguez, who adopted him and treated him as his own. Gerardo had a younger sister, Milena, and his childhood was generally calm and carefree. He attended a regular school, enjoyed riding motorcycles, and met his true love, Carol, at a young age. By 23, Gerardo was living with Carol and their daughter, 4-year-old Genesis Cruz, in his aunt and uncle's house in San Sebastian, a suburb of the capital. He worked at a local bakery to support his family, and the couple was delighted to learn they were expecting their second child. In the summer of 2015, Gerardo met Samodi, who frequently shopped at the bakery. Despite being nearly 20 years older than him, Samodi's attractiveness and flirtatious nature captivated Gerardo, leading him to secretly meet with her. Samodi, who enjoyed the attention from her young lovers, began visiting the bakery daily, which did not go unnoticed by the other employees. In addition, Samodi often appeared in public with her eldest daughter, Christina, who was 19 at the time. Initially, Gerardo managed to skillfully balance his family life with his secret meetings with Samodi, ensuring that neither woman discovered the other's existence. However, Gerardo soon let his guard down. He wanted to boast about his success with women and began telling friends and colleagues about Samodi, praising her as an incredible mistress who spoiled him with gifts. Rumors quickly reached his mother, who tried to reason with him and urged him to end the affair. The relationship lasted only a few months and ended in October 2015, when Samodi discovered that Gerardo had a pregnant wife and a young daughter. Enraged, she started calling and texting Carol, insulting her and threatening to kill Gerardo if he didn't commit to her alone. Gerardo begged for his wife's forgiveness and managed to keep his family together. He dismissed Samodi's threats, assuming she would quickly move on to a new boyfriend, not realizing how vengeful she could be. A few days after the breakup, Gerardo witnessed a disturbing incident. While walking down a downtown street, he saw an older man following a young girl, holding his phone in a way that the camera was positioned under her miniskirt. Outraged, Gerardo began filming the scene, then stopped the girl to inform her and advised her to go to the police. He chased the man, capturing his face on camera, loudly questioning if he enjoyed taking inappropriate photos of unsuspecting girls, until the man escaped into a cab. That night, Gerardo posted the video on his social media page, and it quickly went viral. Users identified the man as Luis Sulmano Delgado, a former official at the Ministry of Finance. The media picked up the video, and Gerardo became a national sensation, frequently interviewed by newspapers, television, and radio programs about the incident. He condemned Delgado's actions and stated he had no regrets about exposing him. However, experienced lawyers hired by Delgado began working against Gerardo, accusing him of illegal actions. They claimed the distribution of the video violated the law and prepared to sue him. Gerardo, surprised by this turn of events, couldn't understand why he was being targeted instead of the man who committed such a disgusting act. On October 7th, Gerardo gave his last interview on a local radio station, confident that he was in the right and had nothing to fear. The next day, he had planned to meet his friend Oswald after work, but canceled, citing a sudden emergency. It later emerged that he received a message from Samodi, tricking him into coming to a park that evening under the pretense of another interview. Trusting his former lover, Gerardo went to the agreed location, only to be confronted by two unknown men who attacked him, stole his bag, and stabbed him multiple times in the chest and stomach before fleeing. Before losing consciousness, Gerardo managed to call his friend and report the attack. His friend immediately contacted the police and medics. Thanks to his prompt action, Gerardo was taken to the hospital, where doctors fought for his life for 42 days. Despite undergoing numerous operations, Gerardo succumbed to his injuries on November 19th. Initially, there were several theories about the crime. The first was that it was a robbery gone wrong. As Gerardo was attacked in a park at night, his bag was stolen, and he was stabbed, making it appear like a common mugging. However, just days before, Gerardo had released a video compromising a well-known former official, leading to the second theory of a revenge killing. By this time, Gerardo had become a national celebrity, and the entire country followed his condition. His family gave periodic interviews. They were baffled about who could have committed such a brutal act against him. Many attended his funeral to express their condolences and hoped the police would swiftly bring the killers to justice. The media speculated that Sulmano Delgado might have hired hitmen to silence the young man who had tarnished his reputation. The murder sparked public outrage, with people picketing the streets demanding justice. The police explored various theories, searching for other potential enemies or ill-wishers of Gerardo. They meticulously investigated leads, looking into Gerardo's past interactions and anyone who might have had a motive to harm him. This was a case that not only stirred public emotion, but also highlighted the darker aspects of power, influence, and the lengths to which individuals might go to protect their reputation or seek revenge. For several months, the investigation stood still until May 2016, when a video from a street surveillance camera was discovered. The footage showed two men running away from the scene where Cruz was fatally shot. These men immediately became prime suspects, but it was up to the police to identify and track them down. The tape turned out to be a key piece of evidence, and once it was made public, the case moved forward. It was repeatedly played on news programs asking viewers to look closely because these could be dangerous criminals. In addition, the police were able to draw up rough sketches of the wanted men and describe their anthropometric data. Soon, the identity of one of the men was established because he himself decided to surrender to the police and cooperate with the investigation in the hope that it would help him mitigate his sentence. Thanks to the information he provided, the investigation quickly identified several other accomplices, as well as the organizers of the crime, Samodi and her daughter Christina. Soon, all participants in the crime were taken into custody. In addition to the mother and daughter, several other men were arrested. Cab driver Ronald Archie, who found the perpetrators of the murder, laborer Cesar Chavez, who acted as an intermediary, and a young minor who was directly involved in the attack. Omar Costa, who had been following the victim and reporting his whereabouts on the day of the attack, was also later arrested. The roles and connections of all the participants in the crime were established through phone calls and text messages. The murder was ordered by Samodi, who had planned the whole thing carefully, including her daughter Christina, in the details of the plan. Together, they turned to their friends, Ronald and Cesar, to help them find a couple of hitmen to kill Gerardo and make it look like a robbery gone wrong in a night park. They were later joined by Omar, who had to make sure the victim went to the agreed-upon location. Samodi chose the date of the massacre herself, October 7th. On that day, she repeatedly contacted all the participants in the crime, assigned roles, and made sure that everyone followed the plan. In addition, the young woman demanded that after committing the crime, they bring her something of the former lover's belongings as evidence. Cruz, after working his shift, headed straight for the park. He was sure that he was going for an interview, so he tried not to be late for the meeting. But at the agreed place, he was attacked, stabbed several times, and then his bag and jacket were taken, which were given to the customer as evidence. The main evidence of Samodi's guilt were the text messages in which the murder plan and the roles of each of the participants were described in detail. the woman was so confident in her impunity that she did not even bother to delete them. The motive for committing such a grave crime was banal jealousy. The woman did not want to share a lover with his wife, and decided that if he was not with her, then no one would get him. She thought everything through and involved her own daughter in her criminal plan, who helped her in everything. Mother and daughter were immediately taken into custody, and the possibility of releasing them on bail was out of the question because the criminals would probably attempt to escape and leave the country. Their accomplices also ended up in pre-trial detention, except for Omar, who was in charge of surveillance, and the youngest participant in the crime was handed over to authorities specializing in juvenile delinquency. The investigation lasted about a year and a half, and only in December 2017 did the trial of all participants in the criminal conspiracy begin. Additionally, it turned out that Samodi had previously been brought to criminal responsibility several times. In particular, she was arrested for forging documents to receive state payments, but then she got off with only a fine. Furthermore, the story of Miguel Angel Perez, the father of Samodi's youngest daughter, surfaced. It was revealed that the young woman gave the child the surname of a former lover without his consent, and then obtained child support from him through the court, which she received for more than 3 years. When it turned out that the whole procedure was falsified, the swindler was sentenced to 3 years in prison and a large fine. But the court took into account the fact that she had a small child and commuted the sentence to a suspended 5-year sentence. At the trial, the wife of the murdered Gerardo admitted that she knew about his affair with Samodi and that the former mistress had threatened him with death, but he did not pay much attention to the threats. The main motive of the crime, as already mentioned, was jealousy and wounded pride of the woman who could not accept that her young lover preferred to stay with his wife. Thanks to the records of phone calls, it was found out that the mother and daughter planned the crime together. It also became known that after the release of the CCTV footage that captured the killers, Christina had a nervous breakdown. She called her mother, sobbing, and was on the verge of going to the police to confess, but she calmed her daughter, assuring her that the investigation would never come out on them. The verdict was not announced until January 23, 2018. According to the court decision, Samodi was sentenced to 30 years in prison. Her daughter, as well as Ronald and Cesar, received 25 years in prison each. One of the killers went to a juvenile detention center, and the second was not found at that time. Omar, on the other hand, who had been following the victim, was acquitted. The family of the victim received $140,000 as moral compensation. After the announcement of the verdict, the relatives expressed gratitude to the court for the fair punishment for the killers of Gerardo. However, it soon became known that the lawyers of Samodi and Christina appealed to the appeals court to mitigate the sentences. The new trial took place in November 2019. At the same time, the identity of the second killer became known, who, according to Ronald, took part in the massacre, but was not privy to the details of the plan. Ronald and Caesar also appealed to the appeals court, hoping to reduce their sentences. As a result, the sentence for each of the participants in the crime was reduced by 5 years. Now, Samodi is serving her 25-year sentence in one of the women's prisons in Costa Rica. As it became known in the summer of 2020, she registered a marriage with a woman she met in prison. Her chosen name is Lindsay Diaz Lopez, and at the time of the relationship's registration, Lindsay had already managed to leave the prison walls, released on parole, while Samodi will spend almost 2 decades behind bars. What do you think about the justice system's handling of this case? Should the sentences have been harsher? Or do you think the appeals court was right to reduce them? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the shadows of the abyss of crime. As we conclude our exploration of this case, we hope it has illuminated the deeper issues that lurk beneath the surface of society. If this series has captured your interest, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the darkest corners of criminal investigations. Please click the bell icon to ensure you don't miss any updates. Your engagement helps us bring these important stories to light. Until next time, stay vigilant and keep seeking the truth. Goodbye for now.